Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Blind Techie Geek Speaks. I'm your host, Kathleen Masciana. Today, I want to talk about something that really caught my attention when children react with extreme anger after an iPad is taken away. What is really going on beneath the surface? Is this simply a tantrum, or is it something deeper about weakness of will, emotional development, and the owners of the iPad to shape desire? The first thing that made me think about this is how insane the reaction can be when a child loses access to screens. It is not always about disappointment. Sometimes it looks like the child is completely overwhelmed, almost as if something essential has been removed. That made me think this not only about screen time, but also about the way technology can become part of a child's emotional routine. That is where Aristotle's idea of akrasia, or weakness of will, becomes useful. Aristotle helps explain how a person can know what they should do and still fail to do it because desire or emotion becomes stronger in the moment. I think that fits here very well. A child may understand that screen time is over, but understanding something and accepting it are two very different things emotionally. In that moment, the desire for the device can overwhelm judgment. That does not mean the child is insane. It means the child is caught in a struggle between reason and appetite. What I find most interesting is how quickly the shift happens. One moment the child is calm, the next there is screaming, crying, or complete shutdown. That kind of reaction makes me wonder whether technology is doing more than just entertaining children. It may be training them to accept immediate stimulation and immediate reward. If that is true, then taking the device away is not just removing a toy, it is interrupting a habit of emotional regulation that the child may have become dependent on. Screen-Free Vacation article gives me a different perspective because it shows what happens when a child is placed in an environment without the usual screen routine. What stood out to me is how the child eventually became interested in real-world activities instead of constantly asking for the iPad. That made me think screen-free time does not automatically have to be miserable. It suggests that children can adjust when they are given something else to focus on. The Apple Recovery Mode article also helped me think about this in a different way. The iOS 27 recovery screen is a built-in troubleshooting environment that appears when an iPhone or iPad will not boot normally. It gives users several choices, including recovery assistance, software update, diagnostics mode, erase all content and settings, and recovery mode, so they can try to fix the device before jumping straight to the most drastic option. The article explains that this recovery screen is meant to give people a more gradual, less destructive way to restore to a fully functional device, and it can even be entered manually rather than only after the device decides something has gone wrong. The idea matters philosophically because it suggests that recovery should be careful and gradual rather than immediate and destructive. That connects back to the child's reaction too. When a child is overwhelmed by the loss of an iPad and the answer is not always the harshest correction, sometimes the better response is to slow down and work through the transition more thoughtfully. If I were in that situation, I would probably feel frustrated, but I would also feel concerned. I would want to know whether the child is simply upset in the moment or whether the device has become too central in their emotional life. At the same time, I would remember that children are still learning self-control, patience, and disappointment, that I would not jump to conclusions right away. So the child is bad or broken. That's not true. I would see it as a sign that technology, habit, and desire are all working together in a way that deserves attention. Philosophically, that is why I keep coming back to akrasia. Aristotle gives us a way to understand how someone can know better and still struggle to act better. That seems much closer to real life than a simple good versus bad explanation. It allows us to say that the child is not irrational in a total sense, but instead caught between judgment and desire. That is a very human conflict, and it is one that technology seems to interfere rather than reduce.